What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel and you check out the content. And in this video, I want to react to a video that Jason Whitlock made about Black culture, right? And the title of that video that Jason Whitlock is called "The Culture Black People Choose Cripples Black Progress." And so again, he was talking about Black culture, and he takes what Jason Whitlock do, in my opinion, is he takes like decisions made by an individual people or person, and he just assigns that to a whole demographic and a whole race of people, and say that that is culture when it comes down to like the individual and the decisions that they make. And what's even worse is he'll take like a negative decision that a person make, and he'll say, okay, that's Black culture for you, so let me play Jason Whitlock's video, and then I'm gonna give my commentary and some pushback on what I think is wrong with Jason Whitlock's his statements.
Quickly make some clarifying comments from yesterday's show. We did the whole "I am not your honky" deal yesterday. I want to circle back to it for those that missed it or those that misunderstood it. People have reached out to me over Twitter and over email, and some have had questions. And the number one question that people have hit me with, or allegation they've hit me with, is, man, Whitlock saying white people are superior to black people. And there have been some white people that have said, oh, just admit it, white people are superior to black people. So, and then again, there's been black people saying, are you saying that white people are superior to black people? And I want to be crystal clear here. And I said it very clearly. The color does not determine any level of superiority, or it just doesn't.
All right, so now he says that, right? He's saying that right now in this video, but he always made claims that like rap and black culture, he always made claims that put rap and black culture down, right? But you never really hear him speak against any other culture in a negative way. So he's trying to have, in my opinion, he's trying to have it both ways. When if he's speaking about like what a decision or something that somebody did, no matter where they come from, what their race or their ethnicity is, he can't attribute that to a whole group of people because it's individuals who make these decisions. But he always seemed to find like the negative part about whatever a black person did.
Culture does. And the entire argument that I was laying out yesterday is an acknowledgement that we all need to recognize and realize, that's playing out in the sports world, that's playing out in real life. There are real consequences for choosing the wrong culture. And the argument that I have made is like, man, when I look at these white athletes and how they have seen the NFL change the quarterback position to where it's like, no, we want the quarterback to use his legs more and exit the pocket. And even though it's probably not the right move, but that's the direction the NFL has gone to. And then voila, the white quarterback instantly like, okay, if that's what y'all want, if that's what y'all paying for, and the top 4 rushing quarterbacks in the NFL just happen to be white. And it
All right, so he's saying that the culture and all right. First of all, I have 2 different quarterbacks on the screen. I have Jalen Hurts and I have Lamar Jackson, right? two different playing styles. Like Jalen Hurts is more of a pocket quarterback. Jalen Hurts he can run at times when he need to, but that's not like his forte. That's not his specialty. Lamar Jackson is a more athletic quarterback, and he runs right, and that's him. Both of these guys are part of the African American community, so in a sense, both of these guys come from the same culture. So you can't take one quarterback, and if he's not having as much success as you would think that he should have, and say and then attribute that to the culture. That's Lamar Jackson's playing style is what has gotten him this far. Not to say that it's right, not to say that it's wrong. You know, now, like he said, most of the running quarterbacks or the scrambling quarterbacks or the successful ones are white. And it's always been like that. I remember watching Fran Tarkenton when he played I think Fran Tarkenton played for the Minnesota Vikings, right? And Fran Tarkenton was a white guy, and he used to have to run for his life because the team that they had around him and scrambling, that was his thing. But I never heard anybody back then when Fran Tarkenton was running the football saying that, he was, and they never said anything disparaging about him, or they never attributed that to white culture. You know what I mean? Like the fact that he chose to be a running quarterback is bringing out white culture. Steve Young was also another really good quarterback, in my opinion. I don't know how many Super Bowls Steve Young won, but he was a scrambling quarterback, a left-handed scrambling quarterback who found success in the league. So I think it's a double standard for Jason Whitlock when you think about the way that some black quarterbacks play. And you have black quarterbacks who stand in the pocket, like I said, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. Then you have black quarterbacks like Lamar, who are more running quarterbacks. And I think that you find success. I think the quarterback who can stand in the pocket and find the receivers, I think in the long run is right now is looking like they find more success around the league than the quarterback who runs, because the primary job for the quarterback is to find the open receiver, and so to change that role into turning that quarterback, you basically turning your quarterback into a running back, right? But let me get back to what Jason Whitlock is saying.
Instead of whining and complaining and seeing themselves as a victim, they're like, oh, they're favoring quarterbacks that can run, and the black quarterbacks are now dominating. The white quarterback has been like, I'm not a victim. I'll just adjust. This is what they're paying for. This is what I'll do.
All right. So I think that holds true for both black quarterbacks and white quarterbacks. I don't think any of these quarterbacks, like the league set the standard. If you qualify to be a quarterback, then you'll be a quarterback in the league. So, it's not a situation where a player is coming into the league and say, all right, well, take me as I am. The league don't operate like that. And so you can't be a quarterback or an NFL football player and say, well, this is what I bring to the table. Y'all accept it or reject it, because it don't work like that in professional football or any sport. It don't work like that, and you can't be a successful athlete when you have the mentality of somebody who make excuses. You just can't do it. You won't get far as an athlete. And I know people who have a victim mentality, black and white. So you can't attribute that to one culture, because basically, if you live in this country, you are, there's one dominating culture, and everybody comes from that one dominating culture. I don't care if you come from the suburbs or you come from the inner city. Like, everybody is just trying to make it, do their best to get ahead. And so if you have that mentality, whether you come from the suburbs, you come from the inner city, or you come from a rural area, you still are part of the one dominating culture. I never heard anybody say that when kids who listen to heavy metal music, like, that's white culture. They never said that. But then they'll say that, kids who listen to rap music, oh, that's black culture. music is a genre of entertainment, right? You know, rap music is a genre of entertainment, just like country music, just like jazz, just like gospel. Now, it's a part of the culture, but it's not the culture. It's just so much more that goes into the culture than just music. Music is only a small part of it, right? So even when you take the definition of culture, right, it says culture is a concept that encompasses social behavior, institutions, and norms found within human societies, as well as knowledge, beliefs, arts, which music would fall under the arts. But then you have laws, customs, capabilities, and attitudes. So music, which Jason Whitlock always attributes to, you know, part of the culture, is a small part of it. But when you look at rap music, like kids from all ethnicities like rap music. You know, you can travel around the world and hear kids listening to rap music, but that's not their culture. That's just something that, you know, it's a form of entertainment that they like. You know, just like heavy metal music or whatever kind of music that kids listen to is not the culture, you know. But Jason Whitlock and always try to pass this off like it's rap music is black people's, is like the dominant factor in their culture when that's not the truth, right? Well, let me get back to some more of what Jason Whitlock had to say. And I think Jason Whitlock, in my opinion, is just grifting for a particular audience when he make these kind of statements, or maybe he make these kind of statements for clicks and views so he can get some attention. But I think people are more intelligent than to fall for this nonsense that he be talking.
And I'm pointing out, we pointed out yesterday that there were 12 teams in the NFL that had a white head coach and a white quarterback in combination. And the argument that I was making is that because these white guys don't see themselves as victims, and because they have a shared culture that rejects victimhood, that combination of white coach, white quarterback, never seeing themselves as victims, it actually works. There's an alignment of values. And I believe, and this part is more speculation on my part, but my belief is that these white quarterback, white coach, whether they're devout Christians, they have a Christian worldview. And they may not even know it, or they have values that are consistent.
Yeah, see, he's speaking from somebody else's perspective, which he can't even relate to. Like he can't relate to being a white man. So, you know, his argument really don't make any sense. He's speaking from somebody else's perspective. Like I said, you as a professional athlete and you take the position away from it, you don't necessarily have to be a quarterback. You can be a linebacker. Like I never hear any of those guys complaining about anything. I think what you do hear people saying, they want to be. Everybody wants to be treated fairly, and they want a fair opportunity. I do. You know, you can hear that from time to time, but you don't hear athletes complaining about like the league is treating me this way because I'm, you know, I'm black or anything like that. It just don't happen because these guys are they so focused on competing for their job and competing at their position that they don't have time to. Don't even have a mindset to be complaining about stuff like that. And when Jason Whitlock, like his argument to me just is really don't make any sense. And but he continued to make these arguments like everything that is that comes from the white community is right when you have people with the same you have good athletes from both communities, right? And so you have people with who might agree on different things from both communities. Like you have athletes who you know, I just don't get his line of thinking. I think that Jason Whitlock is just grifting when he says you know, he make these kind of statements because even if you look at the black quarterback, like I said, Lamar Jackson is a running quarterback. Jalen Hurts is a quarterback who who's a primary a pocket passer. Then you have Patrick Mahomes, primarily a pocket passer. But these guys all. So his argument right there, they just dispel his argument when you take three of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't know, Jason Whitlock. His argument is just crazy, man. It don't make any sense. So that's my take on Jason Whitlock, man. I think he's just grifting. I think he don't really make a good point at all when he's talk about like black culture and stuff like this. He don't make a good point at all. I think a big part of people's success is determined by like their environment coming up, like not just their success, but like the way they look at things. Like if you come from a single parent household, like your outlook is different from a kid that comes from a two parent household, right? So I would draw the distinction there because you have a different, the environments are a little bit different. Like Jalen Hurts come from a two parent household. His father had a heavy influence in his life, right? And that's not to knock kids or people who come from single parent households, but it just points out that they have different outlooks depending on their environment and their upbringing. Patrick Mahomes come from a two parent household, so his environment was a little bit different, and his outlook is a little bit different. But still, these guys still they still live within the dominating society, like the larger society. So if you come from a two parent household or a single parent household, you still fall under that big umbrella of just you grew up in this country, so you're part of this dominating culture, right? So Jason Whitlock, man, he just really don't make any he don't make any sense in his argument when he tried to say that black culture is failing, it's failing black people, man. It's handicapping black people. He just don't make no sense because there's too much evidence around the league that like the culture is diverse, just like every other culture is diverse. It's just a whole lot of different factors that go into what culture really is. And he's just looking at music, and that's what he always referred back to, the rap music. When it's when any culture is larger than just their music or the arts, right? And so it's about also the beliefs. Everybody don't have the same beliefs. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'll check you all out in the next video.